Welcome and thank you for joining the Forward Discussion, where we will take a look at some of the biggest trends in business aviation today. We're kicking off this morning with a discussion about technology. Its power to transform business aviation by optimizing efficiency and quality and bringing greater efficiency with less manpower. At UAS, we've been channeling our efforts to revamp user experience, and today at EBACE, we are launching our new Global Trip Manager, a powerful trip management system that gives our clients' users more control for their trip planning and operations. I'm delighted to welcome some of the industry's best innovators and thought leaders to share their insights and experience as panelists. To kick off, can you please introduce yourself and summarize your business in a few minutes and how you do that? We'll start with Diego.
Okay, so I'm Diego. I'm the founder and CEO of aviowiki. Aviowiki is the first digital collection of data for aviation. Everything we do is built machine first and API first, meaning that our data can be consumed by other software. Softwares can make decisions based on our data autonomously, help humans to make early decisions, detect issues earlier. And so we cover all the spectrum of operational data, very niche things like opening hours, done in a way that can be understood by a machine, very specific runway information that are useful for planning and all of that. I also wear a hat inside the EBACE. I am the vice chair of the tech committee. I'm chair of the AMAC, which basically groups all the specialties of the industry. And with that, I get a seat on the board at EBACE. So basically have the wider picture of where this industry is going, how it's changing. And I think it's changing. You will see, like, from this stand, you see a lot of change.
Thank you.
I'm Catherine Buchanan. I'm the Director of Business Development at STACK.aero. We are a business operations system for charter sales team. We have leveraged the horsepower of Salesforce and built a platform that focuses on saving and solving a lot of pain points for charter sales teams by making a lot of efficiencies and automating a lot of different work points.
Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Fred Powell. I'm with Portside. I'm a VP of product at Portside. I'm actually new to Portside. I just joined Portside just over a month ago, but I've been in the business aviation software world since the early 1990s. Portside is building a variety of solutions to fill the gaps where there really is nothing else today. We have an owner portal that allows the owner of the aircraft to really self-serve all of the data that they need, from flight scheduling, maintenance, expenses. We have a solution for expense management for operators called Expense Pulse. We built a flight optimization tool for fractional operators, and we've got several other pretty exciting new things in the works that we'll announce later this year.
Great, thank you.
Well, good morning. My name is Andrew Douglas, and I run a company called Make Tech Fly. We build the AvioNexus secure data ecosystem platform, which is a platform for operators, brokers, regulators, FBOs, pilots and crews. We're the world's first ecosystem for sharing data in a secure manner that complies with European, UK and several other data protection laws around the world. So we found a niche that we've seen other software platforms are very good at looking after the aircraft or the FBO, and we found a niche that no one's really looking after the passenger. And driven by the new laws coming out of Europe, particularly the general data protection regulations, that have now impacted how you share data, that is where we've seen our niche, and that's where we build our software aimed at solving that issue first.
Great. Thank you very much for coming. So my first question is that business aviation is a highly personalized business. How can technology complement that? Let's hear Catherine.
I would kind of put that question back on you. How could you possibly provide such a highly personalized, fastidious service without technology?
Exactly.
Because, when you're dealing with 30, 40, 50, 100 clients, and you have to memorize all of these incredibly small details about each individual client, you need technology to support that. So I think it's an imperative.
Great. How do you do that? For example, Andrew, in your company?
What we focus on is we're always the non-revenue data. So you've got to get hold of a passenger, you've got to get hold of their data, you've got to get hold of all the parts that pull a flight together. And in scheduled aviation, that's really easy. All those parts are done. You've just got a simple option of you to buy the ticket, turn up for the flight, and go. But in private aviation, you can have between 7 and 9 people involved in a different flight. So you can have PAs at the departing end, you have PAs at the arriving end, chauffeurs. All these people have to be brought together to know the central data, and that's what we do. We create a single source of truth that allows everybody involved in that private flight to see the data, see what's happening, and know everything is accurate from the very moment they look at the data. Now that still leaves a lot of time for the broker to talk to his or her clients and get them involved. It also removes those pain points where a broker may end up chasing a client for passport data, because despite the fact they've booked the flight, sometimes getting that data, I say sometimes, getting that data of people is quite hard. Even when we went out in America, we were talking to dispatchers and we were talking to the corporate flight departments, they find sharing of data is hard, and they're making sure that when we have a flight change, it goes to everybody instantly. So those are the pain points that we solve, and around that, we create more time for people to be able to do the personal parts. So explain what the aircraft is, explain why a certain airport's been chosen, describe what, allow people to know what the chauffeur company is doing. So you've got the core of what we do in the private world, and allow people to build on that. We don't cut the broker out of the process. That's not something we're trying to do. There are other companies trying to do that, but we feel the broker is really important. We allow the operator and the broker to communicate. We allow the passenger and the FBO to communicate. So again, by doing this and the easiness of those passenger communication, you actually enhance the passenger experience. Yeah. And that's what makes it more personal.
Thank you. I think in fractional ownership also, this is very important, personalized services. So can you tell us a little bit about this?
I would just say that not only is every operator different in how they deliver their service, different in the types of aircraft that they fly, difference in their business model, whether it's fractional or charter or managed. Every operator is different. Every operator is trying to deliver a unique service. And without technology, when you need, if it's all phone calls and emails between the actual customer and the operator, and then losing things in emails, losing things in requests, enabling the actual consumer of the service to have instant information, to submit requests, to see trip information, to self-service, and give them that exactly what they need in the format they want it, without having to call somebody on the phone or send an email and hope they get back a response in a couple of hours. Instant access to accurate, up-to-date information that's disseminated to everybody. And that's really where the technology in this industry has stopped to this point. The systems out there today are for internal use by the operators, but by moving the systems to the cloud and building truly cloud-based next-gen systems, now you're actually letting the passengers, the requesters, the owners log into these systems, and that's what doesn't exist today. Exactly. That's what truly is different about what the new systems are able to do. It's not for the dispatchers and the pilots and the accounting people, it's for the owners and the charter buyers to access their information directly, immediately, not in a monthly owner statement that someone manually compiles into a PDF.
Yeah, thank you. Diego, how aviowiki is addressing this, all the information? How does it address personality?
So what Andrew was saying is not just personalized, but we also have a duty of care towards our passengers. Ultimately, I look at it as the passenger experience, because you can do the best software for the operators, but if that doesn't improve the journey of the passenger, you haven't added value to the ultimate user, right? So in data protection, for example, we have a duty of care. These are usually wealthy individuals. They don't like their data leaked and stuff like that. So that is one aspect. And for me, the duty of care is also about having the information delivered promptly. We've debated a lot around 2019, 2020 on how broken the NOTAM system is. Yeah. Like if an airport closes, you have to go and retrieve that information. That information doesn't come to you, which means you don't know until you know, and that usually is pointless.
Especially during the pandemic, that was very challenging to capture real-time data of open hours and all this.
Our data team was doing around 2,500 updates a day. And we had some airports on a watch list to call daily because we knew that they would publish the hours only for the next day. So it's a very demanding environment. On-demand aviation is a very demanding environment. It hasn't been digitized, and so that's what we are taking as a mission.
Okay, great, thank you. So moving on, next generation aviation is coming. The urban mobility, electric aircraft. How are you preparing to support this sector, which is new? So maybe we can start also.
Well, the whole idea of aviowiki was to digitize the industry. If you look at any industry, you cannot automate until you digitize. You know, Waze, Google Maps wouldn't exist until you cannot do navigation until you have the digital map, right? And it's not just the streets, but it's also the businesses. If I want to go to P51 at Pala Expo, I'm going to type P51 Pala Expo. I'm not going to type the coordinates. Right? So you need to have a digital environment, and then you can automate. What we are trying to do with AAM is automate, but we don't have the digital infrastructure. So aviowiki creates basically the digital twin of the aviation infrastructure. If you want to create a flight to go from this Walmart to your neighborhood, and you know that there are two vertiports, let's call them whatever, vertipads. You need to know if at Walmart there is a charger that you can use for the duration, and it's not going to be a dispatcher reading that. It's going to be the machine deciding, right?
Yeah.
So the difficult bit is not selling the flight on an Uber Elevate. The difficult bit is Uber Elevate can it go from A to B? They will not have 45 minutes reserved to hold and wait for a free stand, right?
Yes.
So we're probably talking about 45 seconds rather than 45 minutes.
Yes.
So that is our mission, is digitize the industry. Business aviation just happens to be in the same space. I categorize everything as on-demand aviation. Whether you transport Jeff Bezos or Jeff Bezos's merchandise, or whoever, it could be Mohammed tomorrow flying on one of these.
So you think the industry is ready for this next generation new trends? It does not require a different set of customization or changes.
It requires to heavily digitize. It requires the current on-demand aviation, which is our business aviation industry, is these two pavilions.
Okay.
To understand that we have to digitize, and it doesn't mean putting people out of job, because a lot of people think digitize, automate, fire half of the dispatch team. No.
It's about creating new jobs, different kind of jobs.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Yes. Catherine?
So I'm really excited to say that we're already at the forefront of actually preparing for all of these exciting new developments within aviation. At the minute, a lot of operational systems that you're administrating flights in, it's reliant on the constraints of airport to airport. And when we're talking about these brand new vehicles, that's obviously not going to work. So we have already created a system that works on point to point, and we're moving away from that airport constraint.
Okay.
And so that digitization that you're talking about, STACKero has already kind of implemented it. We're not even looking at just administrating aviation flights. We're looking at any mode of transport, so that if a flight comes to you with ground transport, yachts, any different type of transport, it can be administrated through the business operations.
Yeah, and I would add that with the eVTOLs, it's not just obviously passenger transportation, it's cargo, it's inspection, it's power line inspections. And so at Portside, we're already talking to some of our existing customers that are operating drones for these other purposes and saying, hey, we have the same requirements for the drones that we do for our aircraft. We got to pull in data from maintenance and pull in data from expense management and trip requests and all these other things. And those may be different systems. It might be a different maintenance system. It might be a different scheduling system. However, we still need to pull that data together and aggregate it from these systems, and that's essentially what the Portside Owner Portal does. And so, we're already talking to some of our customers that operate drones, and we'll transition that into passenger transportation as that matures and becomes, certified.
Great. Andrew?
We think we're already there. We're agnostic to what the aircraft type is. I mean, for us, it's just a data feed, as Diego was saying. And actually, we think that the requirement for what we've got will increase, because at the moment, we don't even have passengers knowing where a private terminal is. Now you can stick their mode of aerial transport anywhere. Like, you know, and so at the moment they can't even find a private terminal at a well-known airport. The requirement to then find where this drone has now landed, or eVTOL, or EBAM, or that increases. So for us, actually, we think we've looked at this from the very start and looking where the industry is going. But also, one of the biggest things is going to be for us is the regulation and working with the regulators. And the conversations we've had on this side of the Atlantic, that side of the Atlantic, and around Europe, actually getting data to them in a manner that's secure and fast is going to increase. So at the moment, there's a few people who will take a helicopter from London to Paris. But in the future, you can be taking a helicopter, UAM all around, across all sorts of global boundaries. Now that's going to throw up its own problems if you can't get the required data instantly into the regulators. And one of the biggest problems we find with the regulators, they've got some of the slowest tech out there. The problem with us, or problem for us, is that we're finding new tech, we're integrating new tech, we're pushing ahead with it, and then we've got to go back to the regulator and say, here's all this brilliant amount of data, and they go, oh yeah, but our system wasn't built for that. So we've got to then work on that piece and say, okay, how do you want the data? What do you need to see from this? What do you need to make a decision? And from that piece, make sure we're giving them the data they require in a timely manner. So at the moment, you look at some of the rules and regulations around arriving countries, and you ask, why is that the timeline? And it's because of the timeline was for somebody to take a fax, tear the fax screen off it, walk it around the corner, look at it against the other 5 faxes, and then go, maybe, right, that took us X number of hours. That requirement is going to be under so much pressure when somebody through a technical tech platform books an international flight, they need a go, no-go decision. So we think they're there, and we think that, the stuff that everyone's doing is empowering those decisions so they can be made at the speed of the tech we've got now.
I put a provocative question a little bit, but it's technologically, it's what we've been discussing, like, are we ready technologically? I'm wondering, are we ready culturally as an industry, right? Because I have been moaning about AAM company disregarding or discarding everything that comes from what they call conventional aviation. But are we in business aviation perhaps doing the same and say, oh, those geeks, let them figure out the world by themselves? Is there an angle where we can work together on this stuff? And I strongly believe it's on-demand aviation. It will be all-encompassing.
Yes, that will lead to my next question, which is about how the pandemic have hastened the need for technology application. And with the great resignations happening and with the challenges that companies have with manpower recruitment, is technology moving fast enough to cope with giving more efficiency with less manpower?
Going back to the pandemic, one of the things that we found quite amusing was all of a sudden, with the COVID and the COVID passports, there was around Europe at one point 19 different types. And you go, well, which one do we pick? I mean, integrating these technologies has a cost. And as you know, there's always going to be a cost somewhere. And the technology was so quick that so many companies were able to spin up a COVID passport, say this is the national COVID passport for a certain country, and you go, well, okay, but how do I get the national passport of that country recognised by the arrival of this country? And I think at the end, it was one of those things where people were making passports and reading the data, and so quickly that actually the regulators couldn't cope. And then you look at other things, because the speed that people are making these COVID passports, also there's quite a lot of rules, particularly in North America, on passenger data for medical reasons. You go, I wonder if they've actually gone back through the process and checked off all the criteria to make sure that actually what we're saying and sending is known on the other side. So the pandemic, from my point of view, it has shown us that actually we can be smart, we can be responsive, we can be quick, but we need to make sure that all parties come at the same speed. Otherwise, we get more problems.
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting that things that were progressing fairly slowly, all of a sudden happened very quickly, right? People were beginning to work remotely, and that was a slow and steady transition to being able to work remotely. And all of a sudden, people just don't come into work and they're remote 100% of the time. And now you've got operators running legacy desktop systems, and suddenly running a legacy desktop system remotely just doesn't work. It worked if you did it once every other week, but if the whole team is remote, it doesn't work, right? So you've got technology that was hanging on because there wasn't something better that now has got to be replaced in order to support a remote workforce. And then, of course, the obvious point of the increase in demand, right? The industry obviously shrank to almost nothing and then came back and broke all records. And now, for the first time, in the history of business aviation, there's more demand than there is supply. And operators have a whole new problem that they've never dealt with before. And instead of I think the brokers trying to haggle operators down for a lower price, the operators realize they can ask whatever price they want, and the owners are actually saying, hey, I want to fly my aircraft less. So now the operators have a completely different problem of saying, well, we don't want to sell every trip we can. We actually want to turn away trips. And so technology to enable them to maximize their profits based on what kind of trips do I want, right? So there's a whole other dynamic there of technology to enable more demand than supply. And then, of course, with that growth in the industry and people, resigning in the workforce shortage, if operators want to grow, they can't scale by adding people. So the technology has to be more automated and do more. That you can't just go out and hire 3 more people for every 5 aircraft you bring on. The technology has to enable you to scale. And so then you think about those things, and all of them are kind of obvious, but you put it all together, and then you're like, wow. That's a huge transition in a short time. Something that would happen at a glacial pace happened in a period of a couple months. It's really incredible what happened when you put all that together. And there's probably other things too. That's just the high level.
Yeah, thank you.
I think Fred nailed it with the change in culture and the change in volume. Certainly from our perspective at Stack, what we saw were a huge wealth of people coming to us and inquiring and saying, I've now got people in different countries, and we need a central source of truth for our business, and we have a huge volume of flights coming in, and we are struggling to deal with it all, and I've got this pain point and this pain point and this pain point, and we need a system that is able to automate, that's able to run our flights, that's able to bring us together as a group kind of in this global context into one place. So I think the pandemic has really pushed people towards tech to start solving those problems.
And the capabilities of mobile devices and high bandwidth connections, those just came into place in the last few years. So now the technology solutions are being built. So now it's possible. 5 years ago, it probably wouldn't have even been possible. Now it's possible. Now it's how quickly can we build these solutions on top of the infrastructure that's now there to enable the new reality of how people work.
This is our only problem, though. At the minute, people are saying, I need the new solution, but I need it in place yesterday.
Right.
So this
and
is
I'm too busy to make a change because no one has a spare second.
I think this was a challenge that Diego addressed, is that it's not only technology, we have to address culture and people, because people are the center of all our organizations, and we have to address people and culture.
But in the pandemic, another aspect we saw was obviously, the obvious that you need to do more with less and all of that, but also the environment is changing at a different pace. You have countries in Europe that decided that certain Mondays would become their change of regulation, and all of a sudden you have 27 countries changing, hundreds of airports changing. I mean, our lead for data is there, and she was literally, crying her eyes out. 2,500 changes a day to manage, and a lot of it is manual. And what it did for us is it opened the eyes for operators, for people in the industry, to the fact that it doesn't make sense to replicate all of this in every company. I know a big operator had 5 employees just dedicated to COVID-related data collection. And as Fred was saying rightly, people are realizing you cannot just throw bodies at problems, throw some bits at it anymore.
So our last question is, what are you most excited about with regards to the latest tech advancement in aviation? So what's you're mostly excited about in terms of latest advancement in technology in aviation today?
Well, I live up in not quite Highland Scotland, but I live in a fairly sort of remote part of Scotland. So for me, travelling, east, north, south, east, west is just basically done by car. And you look around us, we look at some of the stuff here, the UAM market, I think that's going to open up a huge amount of aerial travel for people. And that's what I think is going to be really exciting. The fact that you can go to places that at the moment are days of drive away, I just think that's going to be wonderful. And you know, we're probably not going to get quite to the sort of the personal jetpack just yet, although there are some fantastic bits of flying kit going around in North America. But I think we're getting so close that actually, that, you know, these things will become so affordable that they will be a mainstream thing. So it'll be that you have your house, your car, and your own UAM parked somewhere soon. That's what I'm looking for.
Nice.
That kind of checks me out.
I also. Fred, what do you think?
You know, I would say on kind of the aircraft side, I'm really impressed with the new VLJ operators, and I'm thinking in the U.S. And the amount of hours they're flying for like operators that have only been around for 1 or 2 years, incredive. It's really incredible what the VLJ, you know, whether it's managed or fractional or the different, you know, options people have. That's really exciting. And then from the technology side, as I mentioned a little bit, you know, having been in this industry for many years, and the technology was always for the operator, and finally seeing the technology being for the passenger, for the owner, for the requester of the trip, and seeing like the vision of a cloud-based application, not just being web-based, but saying, hey, you're going to have your customers log in to access their information. And what we're used to with our airline flights will now be possible, you know, for the charter and owners of aircraft. So, you know, that to me that's a huge change, and it enables the industry to scale. It enables a better level of service, and frankly, it's just really exciting to be building these solutions and expanding the technology out to a whole new persona within business aviation.
Thank you very much.
I'm super excited about the Internet of Things technology coming on board with aircraft and just assisting that kind of preventative maintenance. And hopefully, with that technology coming in place, we're going to see a huge reduction in downtime, and that's just going to support our aviation growth.
Great. Diego?
Andrew was talking about regional air mobility, and basically, I think that's going to support a lot of what I call the sustainability pillars, which is social sustainability, because there's a lot of underserved communities, and the issue of people moving into the cities is still very strong, and if we have, and they mostly do it for connection, right? So if we have a very strong and an easy way to access the outer areas of the country outside the city, that's very. As a geek, I'm very intrigued by electrification. I just like how sleek it all is. Control systems, whatever the technology to store the energy will be, because it might not be batteries, it might not be lithium. I don't know what it's going to be, but the fact of having an electric powertrain, I don't know. I just love it. The noise they make is already, you know, if we can bring more acceptance of aviation to communities and not have the neighborhoods ask us to shut down airports, to shorten runways because we are too noisy, that will already be a big win. But yeah, I just love
hopefully we'll get there. Hopefully one day, yes.
Yeah. And I think with hydrogen fuel potentially coming in, you know, that's where we're potentially going to see that reduction in emissions to hopefully zero. That acceptance of aviation will start to come back again. And I think, hopefully that's going to repair some of the relations between communities and aviation.
Great. At the end, thank you very much, gentlemen, for speaking and giving us your valuable insight about technology, and we wish you best of luck on your companies and at EBACE. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Mohammed.